Jelly Roll just said something to Blake Shelton's face that nobody was supposed to hear. No cameras. No reporters, just a dark backstage hallway and two men standing in silence, so heavy you could feel it in your chest.
Back to Austin, 'cause she talked about
What he said wasn't loud, wasn't angry. It was 5 words that made one of country music's biggest stars go completely still. And when fans found out what happened next, Nashville exploded.
Justify your addiction. I hate to tell you that your daughter's
about drama. This isn't gossip. This is about something way deeper. Something that connects to heartbreak Blake never talks about. To battles Clarkson fought in silence. To the moment Gwen almost walked away from everything. And by the end of this video, you're gonna understand why one quiet warning in an empty hallway might be the most important thing Blake Shelton has heard in years. But first, you need to know what really happened that
right and wrong. These men.
Jelly Roll ain't your typical country star. He didn't grow up with record deals and vocal coaches. He came up in places most folks pretend don't exist. Prison cells, rehab, streets that swallow people whole. This man built everything by saying the stuff you're too scared to admit. When he sings about pain, you feel it because he actually lived it. That's why this hits so different. When someone like Jelly pulls you aside privately, when someone who crawled out of the darkest places looks you in the eye and says something feels wrong, that ain't gossip. That's a warning from somebody who knows what falling looks like. But here's where things get really interesting. This happened right after what fans are calling the band duet, a performance that had Nashville buzzing before the first note dropped. The crowd was electric that night. Phones everywhere, social media, going crazy. Everyone thought they were watching something magical unfold.
the car, I sold it. If this is Tuesday night,
The song ended. Spotlight faded, and everything shifted. Most artists would have celebrated right there, slapping backs, taking photos, riding that high like it was the best night ever. But Jelly didn't do any of that. He lingered backstage with this look that made people kinda uncomfortable. He wasn't smiling for cameras, wasn't chasing interviews. He just stood there watching and thinking. Like he was seeing something nobody else could see yet, and before anyone figured out what was happening, he walked right over to Blake. Now here's what nobody expected. People who were there say there was no confrontation, no finger pointing or dramatic movie scene, just two guys who shared stages and stories, who both felt the weight of an industry that chews people up when they stop paying attention. What Jelly said was simple. Almost too simple. You don't look like yourself anymore. Not physical stuff. He wasn't talking about clothes or image. He meant the eyes. He said the man in front of him didn't feel like the one shaped by dirt roads and dive bars. The guy who chased a dream with nothing but a pickup truck and stubborn heart. Think about that for a second. Imagine someone you respect pulling you aside when nobody's watching. Imagine them saying gently, "I'm worried about you." Not because you did something wrong, but cause something in your eyes looks different now. Would you hear love or judgment? Here's where it gets more complicated. This warning wasn't about any specific person, wasn't really about fame or that duet. It was deeper than that. It was about losing yourself so slowly you don't notice till someone else points it out. The music industry runs on reinvention. We all know that. Lights are always brighter somewhere else. Opportunities keep multiplying. And suddenly you're navigating red carpets and headlines that look nothing like the life you came from. One minute you're the guy singing about small towns and Sunday mornings. Next minute, those things feel like distant memories. Sometimes you don't notice the shift. Sometimes it takes an old friend grabbing your shoulder saying, "Wait."
They say my lifestyle.
Later that night, Jelly didn't just let it sit. According to folks who know, he followed up with a private message. No public call-out, no social media drama for clicks. Just a personal reminder sent when nobody was watching. The message was basically, remember where you came from. Remember what made you feel whole before all this. Fans grabbed onto that detail fast, because it didn't sound like celebrity gossip. It sounded like something a brother would say, something a real friend would risk awkwardness to tell you. That's what shook Nashville. Jelly Roll represents something raw right now. Authentic. Scarred but honest. When he talks redemption, people believe him because he earned it hard. When he talks pain, people feel it because his pain is real.
and I need you.
So when someone like that says don't lose yourself, people don't hear jealousy. They hear genuine concern. They hear warning sirens going off. That's why this exploded online. It wasn't about sides. Wasn't even about relationship stuff tabloids obsess over. It was about identity. About the question every fan started asking. Is Blake still Blake? That's not accusation. It's tension. The kind that creeps in slow when you're not paying attention. Success changes you. It has to. Stages get bigger, circles get tighter. Stakes climb higher every year. But there's a thin line between evolving and erasing what made you special. Jelly knows what erasing feels like. He's talked openly about losing himself. Losing years, chasing wrong things till he couldn't recognize the mirror anymore. So when he sees that flicker in somebody else, maybe he can't stay quiet. Not as critic, but as someone who'd been to the bottom. And here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Part 2. After that backstage moment, the contrast between these two became impossible to ignore. Fans started noticing things they never paid attention to before. Little details, subtle shifts, the kind of stuff that makes you rewind interviews just to make sure you ain't imagining it. Jelly Roll started speaking more openly about traditional country values. Faith, family, the grind it takes staying grounded when success keeps trying to lift you off the ground. He showed quiet respect toward artists who stayed rooted, who never drifted too far from what raised them.
Back roads got me. These pills pretend to be my.
At the same time, there was this noticeable absence in his words. No big endorsements of anything too polished or calculated. No loud defenses of narratives that didn't ring true, just silence where people expected noise. You know what, though? Silence could be louder than words sometimes. The question hung in the air like smoke. Everybody felt it even if nobody wanted to say it directly. Country music fans are fiercely loyal to authenticity. They care about roots and truth and real stories behind songs. When they sense something performative, they react fast. But here's what makes this heavier than typical Nashville drama. It's not about rivalry or petty jealousy. It's about a quiet moment where someone who survived darkness looks at another man in bright lights and wonders if the glow is starting to blind him.
Think you left me broken down. Think that I'll come on.
Imagine being on the receiving end of that concern. Someone you respect pulling you aside without audience or applause. Just raw truth in a quiet hallway where nobody else can hear. Most people would get defensive. Most would brush it off and keep moving, but the question lingers, what if they're right? Some fans argue growth means change, that Blake don't owe anybody the same version of himself forever. Love, marriage, new circles, they shape a person naturally. That's not betrayal, that's just life. Others believe there's lines you don't cross. Country music isn't just a genre you perform. It's identity, culture. A code written in dust and heartache and honesty. Once you start bending that code for shinier lights, something sacred cracks.
I could break away.
It ain't really about any one person. It's about influence, gravity. What pulls you closer to who you really are, and what slowly pulls you away. Here's the part that keeps echoing in people's minds. Jelly didn't go public with this. Didn't tweet, didn't do an interview airing it out for clicks. He handled it one-on-one. Privately. The way people used to handle things before social media turned disagreements into content, that restraint says something. Loudest critics usually want attention. Quiet ones want restoration. Big difference between those two things. Think about your own life. Who's earned the right to tell you when you're slipping? Not strangers in comments. Not headline writers chasing traffic. But friends who knew you before anyone was watching. Who saw you when you had nothing to prove? When that person says something feels off, do you listen? Or brush it off because the crowd keeps cheering?
Tell me what I gotta do to win you over.
That tension sits underneath this whole story. Blake stands in bright global light. Career most artists would sell everything for. Life that looks polished from outside. Jelly stands as proof you can fall apart and rebuild from ashes. Redemption ain't a brand. It's a battle you fight daily. When redemption speaks to success, people pay close attention. Some fans say Jelly's words were protective, like a brother grabbing your shoulder before you walk too close to an edge you didn't see. Others say it wasn't his place, but maybe that's the wrong debate. Maybe the real question ain't who's right. Maybe it's what happens next, because mornings only matter if someone hears them. Growth only matters if it's honest.
Pick me up off the ground where you abandoned things.
Something deeply human about all this. No villains. No heroes. Just two men at different points in their journeys who intersected in a quiet hallway when cameras weren't rolling. One saying, "I've been lost before. I recognize the signs." Other standing at crossroads he might not even see yet. Music world will move on. Always does. New songs. New stories. Headlines that grab attention then fade. But moments like this stick. Not cause of drama, cause of truth. Sometimes most important interventions don't trend. Don't go viral. Don't get millions of views. They happen in whispers. Text messages after midnight. Concerned looks when crowds clear out. Sometimes those quiet moments save you. Or they become the ones you wish you'd listened to?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how long it'll take me, but I'll do my best.
So here's what I want to know. Drop your honest answer in comments, because this community is completely split. If someone you respected pulled you aside tomorrow and said you're not yourself anymore, would you actually listen? Take a step back and look in the mirror. Or assume they just don't understand your growth. I'm genuinely curious where you stand. Answers coming in right now are fascinating. If this made you feel something real, hit subscribe. We tell stories behind music that nobody else will. The human stuff. Real stuff. Moments that matter. See you in the next one.